Supply Chain Security Sec. 841. Modernization of acquisition processes to ensure integrity of industrial base. Section 2509 of Title 10, United States Code is amended, 1. In subsection A, by striking existing, and B, by striking across the acquisition process and all that follows through in the department, 2. By striking subsections F and G, 3. By redesignating subsections B through E as subsections C through F, respectively, 4. By inserting after subsection A the following new subsection. B. Objective. The objective of subsection A shall be to employ digital tools, technologies, and approaches to ensure the accessibility of relevant defense industrial-based data to key decision makers in the department. (5) In subsection C, as so redesignated, A, in paragraph 1, by adding and implementing subsections A and B before the period at the end, and B, in paragraph 2, I, in subparagraph A, 8, by inserting by the Secretary of Defense before the period at the end, and 2, in subparagraph B, I, in the text preceding clause I, by striking constitute and inserting constitutes or may constitute, and 2, in clause 7, by inserting by the Secretary of Defense before the period at the end, 6, in subsection D, 11, as so redesignated, by adding as deemed appropriate by the Secretary before the period at the end. And 7, in subsection E, as so redesignated, A, in paragraph 1, I, in subparagraph A, by striking timely, and 2, in subparagraph B, I, by striking clause 2, and inserting the following new clause 2, a description of modern data infrastructure, tools, and applications and an assessment of the extent to which new capabilities would improve the effectiveness and efficiency of mitigating the risks described in subsection C, 2. And 2, in clause 3, by inserting, including the following after provides data, and B, by striking paragraph 2, and inserting the following new paragraph 2A, based on the findings pursuant to paragraph 1, the Secretary of Defense shall develop a unified set of activities to modernize the systems of record, data sources and collection methods, and data exposure mechanisms. The unified set of activities should include I. The ability to continuously collect data on, assess, and mitigate risks. 2. Data analytics and business intelligence tools and methods. and 3. Continuous development and continuous delivery of secure software to implement the activities. B. In connection with the assessments described in this section, the Secretary shall develop capabilities to map supply chains and to assess risks to the supply chain for major end items by business sector, vendor, program, part, and other metrics as determined by the Secretary. Sec. 842. Modification to analyses of certain activities for action to address sourcing and industrial capacity. Section 849 of the William M. Mac. Thornberry National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2021, Public Law 116-283, is amended, 1. In subsection B, A, in paragraph 1, by striking not later than January 15, 2022, and inserting with respect to items listed in paragraphs 1 through 13 of subsection C, not later than January 15, 2022, and with respect to items listed in paragraphs 14 through 19 of such subsection, not later than January 15, 2023, and B, in paragraph 2I, by striking the Secretary of Defense and inserting with respect to items listed in paragraphs 1 through 13 of subsection C during the 2022 calendar year, and with respect to items listed in paragraphs 14 through 19 of such subsection during the 2023 calendar year. And 2. By striking submitted during the 2022 calendar year, and 2. In subsection C, by adding at the end the following new paragraphs: 14. Beef products. 15. Molybdenum and molybdenum alloys. 16. Optical transmission equipment, including optical fiber and cable equipment. 17. Armor on tactical ground vehicles. 18. Graphite processing. 19. Advanced AC/DC power converters. Sec. 843. Assuring integrity of overseas fuel supplies. A. In general. Before awarding a contract to an offeror for the supply of fuel for any overseas contingency operation, the Secretary of Defense shall 1. Ensure, to the maximum extent practicable, that no otherwise responsible offeror is disqualified for such award on the basis of an unsupported denial of access to a facility or equipment by the host nation government, and 2. Require assurances that the offeror will comply with the requirements of subsections B and C. B. Requirement. An offerer for the supply of fuel for any overseas contingency operation shall 1. Certify that the provided fuel, in whole or in part, or derivatives of such fuel, is not sourced from a nation or region prohibited from selling petroleum to the United States, and 2. Furnish such records as are necessary to verify compliance with such anti-corruption statutes and regulations as the Secretary determines necessary, including a. the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, 15 U.S.C. 78 DD1 et seq. b. The regulations contained in Parts 120 through 130 of Title 22, Code of Federal Regulations, or successor regulations, commonly known as the International Traffic in Arms Regulations. c. The regulations contained in Parts 730 through 774 of Title 15, Code of Federal Regulations, or successor regulations, commonly known as the Export Administration Regulations, and d. such regulations as may be promulgated by the Office of Foreign Assets Control of the Department of the Treasury. c. Applicability subsections a and b of this section shall apply with respect to contracts entered into on or after the date of the enactment of this Act. d. Consideration of trade-off processes. If the Secretary of Defense awards a contract for fuel procurement for an overseas contingency operation, the contracting officer for such contract shall consider trade-off processes, as described in Subpart 15 of the Federal Acquisition Regulation, or any successor regulation, including consideration of past performance evaluation, cost, anti-corruption training, and compliance. With respect to any such contract awarded for which the contracting officer does not consider trade-off processes, the contracting officer shall, before issuing a solicitation for such contract, submit to the Secretary a written justification for not considering trade-off processes in awarding such contract. Sec. 844. Assessment of requirements for certain items to address supply chain vulnerabilities. A. Definitions. In this section, the term dual use has the meaning given in Section 2500 of Title 10, United States Code. B. Assessment. The Secretary of Defense shall assess the requirements of the Department of Defense for dual-use items covered by Section 2533 of Title 10, United States Code. C. Policies. The Secretary of Defense shall develop or revise and implement relevant policies to track and reduce fluctuations in supply chain forecasting and encourage predictable demand requirements for annual procurements of such dual-use items by the Office the Secretary of Defense, each military department, and the Defense Logistics Agency. D. Report and briefings. 1. Assessment report. A. In general, not later than December 31, 2022.